Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. If not, you should see a hand raise button. Just raise your hand if you can't hear me. Otherwise, I'm going to assume everybody can. There is a question section where you can type a question. If possible, if you could save your questions to the end, then we can take it from there, or you can simply send an email with all your questions to auditor@pastel.co.za. Okay, so just to get going, you can see the screen in front of you. This is how Pastel Auditor looks when you open the program. The mechanism works whereby it extracts data from whatever accounting system you're using. It doesn't have to be Pastel Partner. Can be Pastel Evolution, and there are external accounting systems that it connects into. You can also import a trial balance in CSV format. And there's also an option to capture balances manually. Okay, so you don't necessarily need accounting data, but in an ideal world, you do have accounting data. So we're going to assume for this demo that our client data is on Pastel version 11. Okay, so what we would do is that we would go to our wizard and we would create a new set of data. Okay, so on the wizard you can go new or open existing set of data. So give it a name. Let's call it my client. You'd obviously give it the client name with the year you are busy with the client engagement for. So let's say we are going to do for 2011. You'll notice here you've got an Afrikaans working set option where all the financial statements are done in Afrikaans. Okay, great. So we will then click on next, and it now takes us to the screen where we can actually select what method we want to connect into the data with. You've got all the Pastel versions option. Very important to remember that you can connect from Pastel version 6 upwards. Pastel Evolution, ACPAC, Sage, SAP Business One, whatever the case may be. Or you can just select the trial balance CSV import method. Or alternatively, if you have a very small client, you can just capture a trial balance manually in Excel and extract the data through into your financial statements. So let's assume our client's on version 11. We select version 11 and we click next. And now the system just wants to know where the data is sitting. Now remember, your data can be local or it can be on a remote network drive. Okay, so it doesn't matter where the data is stored. You can simply browse to where the data is. But let's assume it's on our local folder. We go to Pastel and we take our client Del 11, for example. Okay, so we select the client and we go OK. There is a load prior data from another working set option where you can take on balances from last year as this year's prior balances. Okay, if you don't tick this option, you will then take prior year balances from your Pastel accounting data. Okay, so off we go. We click on next. And now we select the year we're doing. In this case, we are doing 2011. Financial year end is 2011. So my current year is 2011 and my prior year is 2010. That's all there is to it. When connecting to the data, I click on Finish. It now creates an independent standalone set of data. Now, you'll notice that the wizard pops up again. Okay. Once it's created the database, and I now know that I need to go and click on Load Accounts, and then I'll need to click on Load Balances, and then I'll need to go and Map Accounts. Now, Load Accounts and Balances is two separate processes, because if you simply update your balances in your source accounting data, you just need to come and select Load Balances, and that will refresh your balances in your source data and then pull through into the Pastel Auditor data. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, to save a bit of time, I'm going to go straight into the mapping screen. Okay, let me just open the mapping screen there in an unmapped set of data. You will then see stage 4 is now required. We click on Map Accounts, and then we have all our information that is now ready to be mapped. Now, there is other software out there. You probably recognize this sort of function. It's a simple drag and drop mechanism. So on my left, I've got my balance sheet and income statement, GARP codes we call them, and on my right, we have our general ledger accounts that have been extracted from my source accounting data. either from our source accounting data or from a manual Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so what we now do is we start with our mapping. Now remember, this is a once-off process. Your mapping can be copied year on year and even between clients. If, for example, you've got a client where you've got more than one client set up in Pastel's generic set of accounts, you can import mapping from client to client, because assuming you have a client who has sales 100,000, cost of sales 200,000, the Pastel generic set of accounts, you can copy this mapping between clients. Okay, so let's assume we want to map here. I will now start with my income statement accounts. Okay, and I just have to expand my GARP codes on the left-hand side, all right, because you'll notice that the GARP codes are at different summary levels, all right, and I just simply go onto the right-hand side and I select my general ledger account and I click and drag it onto the left. All right, so you would go through and you would have to map each of your accounts to the relevant GARP codes. Okay, you don't have to split them up as I've done here. It is up to you, because at a later stage you can go and drill down. All right, let's say, for example, I wanted to bundle all of my cost of sales together, for example. So if I want to put all of them into one code and drill down later, I simply need to highlight a whole multitude of them. Just waiting for the screen to refresh quickly. I've highlighted all those costs of sales, and I can click and drag and put them into groceries, for example. Now you'll notice all those GL accounts will move over onto the left-hand side. Okay, so I've moved it onto the left. So you would go through and you would map all your GL accounts into the relevant GARP codes, so the system knows where to go and put all these items on the financial statements. Okay, let's do one for inventories. You'll notice on the right, financial categories pulled through from the accounting data that assists you in the mapping of each of your items, just so as a guideline. So you've got the financial category from Pastel. So if I see if I have inventories over here, there's my inventory control account. I can take inventory and I can simply click and drag it across. So you will then, by the time you've done all your mapping, you will have everything will be blank on the right hand side. Okay, and now you're basically ready to go and run your financial statements. Let's just get my wizard back over there. Okay, I'll just wait for it to refresh. Now you will notice that all the items are now blank, which means you're ready to run your financial statements. So if I look at my financial statements, the system ships with 6 different templates. Okay, you've got 4 GARP templates and you've got 2 IFRS templates. Note these are IFRS for SME templates, one for CCs, one for companies, and as changes in legislation changes, we then change our templates and you can simply import them on the other side. More about that later. I'm just going to go into some live data quickly, and now we want to go have a look at how one of our financial statements templates works. Okay, just go into my demo company over there. All right, if I go to this accounts packed menu, if I open that up, you will then see that I have 4 additional templates. These are my own customized templates. Okay, so you can customize templates, you can do customer specific customization, and you can do generic customization. So for example, you can create a school template that you use in your firm with your firm's letterhead on the accounting officer's report, with your customizations, with your notes selected, etc., etc. But you'll see what I mean when I open up a template. So I've run out an IFRS CC template. Okay. Now you'll notice that everything is Excel based. This is a purely Excel based package. Accountants like using Excel, so the whole system runs in Excel. Any grids or interfaces that come from the system, they go straight into Excel, so it's easily customizable. Okay, so this is a raw template. As you see in front of you, you've got all the different tabs. If I go to my source sheet, now this is the first major sheet that I'll go and customize. So I click on source sheet, and then you'll see all the information that is required on my financial statements, bearing in mind this is the one place that you're going to enter in all your information, and that is then going to filter through to the rest of the workbook. Okay, so you'll see, for example, the information I've entered here. If I go into my company info sheet, that then filters through onto the company info sheet. Now, on each of these sheets, you'll see wherever it says please update source sheet, you will need to go and allocate that information. Okay, very simple, very basic. Got my cover sheet, my index page. Okay, I'll just wait for it to refresh. And if you look at the index page, obviously each of these financial statement templates are pertinent to the type of entity. So obviously you've got members for the CCs, you've got directors for the companies, etc., etc. Once again, all fully customizable. All right. If I keep going along my tabs, I will then get to my accounting officer report over there. It looks quite rough now, but once you finish with the customization and entering all the information, it will look a lot better. Okay, and then if I keep going, I'll just show you the important tabs. If we go into the next tab, which will then be my members report. Okay, so this connection is a little slow. We need to wait for it to refresh. All right, there's my members report. All right. Now, straight into the balance sheet and income statement or statement of financial position and comprehensive income. All right, as you'll see over here. Now, you'll notice I've mapped a few zero items. You don't have to map the zero items. These are just mapped because I was doing some testing. So you'll see those zero items. We can get rid of them for presentation purposes. Okay. There are a lot of macros and cleanup tools in the system that will make life a bit easier for you. This is all covered in the training. All right, that looks a bit better. Now, if we have a look at the hyperlinks to the notes, all right, you'll see there's a number for each of the corresponding notes. If I want to go to the note for property, plant, and equipment, okay, I'll go to note number 5, and I click on it. Now, that's a hyperlink directly into the note itself. It doesn't only go to the notes page. You'll see it just goes to property, plant, and equipment. All right, and then I can go backwards and forwards in between my financial statements and my notes page. If, for example, I then go back and I want to have a look at a different note, I'll simply go back and then I can select, say, inventories, for example. So it'll take you exactly to the specific spot of the notes. Okay. Now, on the left-hand side, you'll notice zeros and ones. Those are macros to tell the system whether you want the note to be shown or not. Okay. So you would customize which lines you want in the notes. You'll also customize which notes in their entirety you want. Okay, we've got a whole list of the notes here. You can use the selection mechanism. All right, if you go to the top of the page and you click on select notes, you'll see all the notes are open over there, and you can just go and insert the various notes that you require. Okay, we're not going to do that now. So those are the macros that will help you select the notes and customize the notes as you see fit. All right, if we then keep on going, we go off the notes page. There's a bit of manual additions required, but rest assured those are once-off customizations, and then you can make your changes to the templates that you won't have to make again. All right, changes in equity is over there. We also have the cash flow statement, which I'll just click onto. The cash flow statements there, wherever the yellow cells, wherever you see the yellow cells, manual entry is required because you need to do changes in, for example, working capital, or you need to do additions or disposals, additions or replacements of fixed assets, etc., etc. You then balance back to your balance sheet bank accounts, whether it's an asset or a liability, whether you're in overdraft or not. You balance it back yourself to the balance sheet. Okay. If we keep going, then we get to the accounting policies. Now I'll show you the notes. There's also an accounting policies page with the same selection mechanism. On the left, you'll see ones and zeros depending on which notes you want to use. And once again, you can use the select notes macro to select them as well. Okay. Then if I keep going from there, I've got the detailed income statement on top of that. So you've got the summary income statement, which you use for presentation purposes, the detailed income statement, which normally you wouldn't. Okay. A few other tabs Not important now. We're just going through the fundamentals of the program. Okay, so once it comes time to saving my templates, I've done my changes, I've inserted my letterhead, I've selected the relevant notes for one customer or for a group of customers. Okay, it's got a simple save mechanism. All right, now if you go to the top of the screen where you go to the templates save option, you can either save to current working set. Now when we talk about a current working set, we talk about a set of auditor data, okay, or you can make generic changes to the template in its entirety. You can actually copy these templates between working sets. Okay, so I can make a master template and then I can go and copy it between each of my different clients. I don't have to go and make the same generic changes over and over again. Okay. All right, so like I said, you've got your 6 templates that ship with the program. That all comes included in the program. You then make your changes and then you carry on with your client. Now, the management packs, there is a monthly management pack as well for monthly management accounts, which you can do your monthly cash flow as well as various layouts of income statements and balance sheets. Okay, and the other reports will come to just now. One very important facility that we have, there is a journal option where you can create adjusting journals within the system. Okay, so I come straight in here, I do an adjusting journal batch. All right, immediately as I click save, it will update my financial statements. So next time I run them out, that link is dynamic, my changes are saved. If I want to make a change to the source data, you also have the option to export this batch. So you'll export your journal batch out of Auditor and you can then go and import it into your source accounting data. So in Pastel, in your general journal option, you'll go and click on batch import, you browse for this file, and then you can simply go and import it. Okay. I obviously want to see what the results are of my adjustments. So there is a journals report, which I can then run out, and it'll then give me a trial balance before, a trial balance after, and then also a list in a neat pivot table of what all my changes were. Okay, so if we go into this report, there's my income statement before. Just taking a while to refresh. Okay, you'll see 3 tabs, initial TB, and then you'll see final TB, and then the last tab is my journal entries. So it'll give you a list of your journal entries, and then in your final TB, it'll also tell you what your balance before the journal entry was, what the journal entry was, what the closing balance is, etc., etc. So you can get quite a nice idea of exactly what's been going on. You can print that out, sign it, or file it, whatever the case may be. Okay. If we go back into the template, now we don't only do financial statements, we also allow the user to get quite creative in the display of the information. So let's say in the financial statements, I want to see what comprises cost of sales, all right, or revenue, or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. You can go and drill down from the income statement and the balance sheet. You can simply select the item you want to see. That then drills down into your lead schedule, all right? So what that now does is gives me a list of all my GL accounts that have been mapped into that GARP code. It gives me the current year, it gives me the prior year, and it gives me the variance between the years as well. Okay, so immediately a bird's eye view at GL level. If you want to break it down even further, let's say I want to drill down into one of my GL accounts. Okay, I want to get an immediate view. Now this is the kind of stuff that you can actually give an addition to your client. All right, you can actually map out a graph which now gives me my current year balances and my prior year balances on a monthly basis. Okay, now remember we're drilling down straight from our financial statements. Okay, so I'll drill down from financial statements into lead schedule into GL. If I then want to drill down into transaction level, it's very simple. I simply select the balance that I want to have a look at, and I select the drill down option. That will now go into my source data and extract a full list of transactions, all right, which I can sort by date, by reference, whatever the case may be. And then once again, I mentioned earlier, you can also export this straight into Excel. Okay, you can use it for additional working papers or filing or whatever the case may be. All right, so I'm just going to close all this. Okay, just quickly a few of the other reports. I won't get into them. I want to take you into the highlight of the program. You've got a financial ratio calculator, which is graphical format of all your financial ratios. You've got a very basic fixed asset schedule as well in table format that allows you to do simple depreciation calculations and gives you a closing balance at the end of the term. The journal entries and lead schedules as well, which I've shown you. A very basic materiality report, which allows you to display material expenses versus income, multiple trend analysis, trial balance, and then the trend analysis, which I showed you. Okay, but I want to go into these two very important documents. Okay, the first document I'm going to show you is called Pastel Officer. Now, Pastel Officer is an accounting officer methodology. As opposed to the audit methodology, it was written with the typical accounting officer engagement in mind. All right, so I simply go and click on Pastel Officer. That now opens my set of accounting officer working papers. Okay, so if I click on it, it takes me straight into the index page. All right, and there you have it. Okay, now this is a list of all the items with hyperlinks, like we have in the notes, into each of the different working papers. Okay, if you scroll down, you can have a look at all the items on offer. So this is the catalog that you have for each of your working papers. I've got, if I go down, I've got for cash, receivables, for inventory, investments, etc., etc. You've got your specimen letter of engagement and letter of representation, which you can use. Now you'll notice that if I click on one of these, let's wait for it to refresh. At the top of the page, on each of the pages, you'll see who the client is, the year end, prepared by, reviewed by, and the date, and then a working paper reference, which you can reference back to additional working papers. Okay, so I then click on the hyperlink back to the index, and just one more, I'll show you accounting officer procedures. For example, if I go into the accounting officer procedures, I click on CC24, that then expands, and it gives me all the duties relating to a typical client engagement, in this case for a CC of the accounting officer. Now you'll see them as you go down. A lot of the stuff will be familiar to you. Determine whether annual financial statements agree with accounting records, reviewing the appropriateness, etc., etc. And it's a checklist as you go down with your working paper reference. Okay. Now, very important to mention, this version we're bringing out now has got the independent review methodology, okay, and easy audit method. Now, so you're going to have three different methodologies. So depending where your client fits in on the public interest score, you can then go and do the appropriate procedures, whether you're using the Pastel Officer, the easy audit methodology, or the independent review methodology, obviously all pertaining to the particulars of the client, the nature of the public interest of the client, the size of the client, etc., etc. Okay. As far as the disclosure checklist goes, if we go out of here, there's also an SME, an IFRS for SME disclosure checklist. Okay, it is available on the web, but for ease of use, we have put it on the within the program. So if I go and expand that, and I go into the disclosure checklist, immediately you'll see you've got each of the various items. Let's wait for it to refresh. Each of the various items. As you scroll down, you'll see you've got the various check boxes, and you can put little checks and balances in there yourself. Now remember, once again, these are templates. You can customize them as you see fit. Okay, so this is all in here for you to check off as you go along with the task of the accounting officer, independent reviewer, or the auditor. Okay, so there's a lot of additional working papers and things we've added, a lot of templates that we've added for you to use. The system is fully multi-usable, all right? So very simple multi-user mechanism. I create the set of data. I can then share it over my entire network. I can add a password. I can password protect each of my client data. You then allow your your clerks or whoever's in the office to then go and connect to each of your clients, and multiple users can work on the same client at the same time, because there's no 100% dynamic connection. The only time it connects is when you're doing an update of accounts and balances. Okay, so I think that in a nutshell is Pastel Auditor. We also include the PDF manual, which you will find under the help menu, and you just click to wherever you are within the system and you can get assistance that way. We do also offer training for September only. If you do buy it in September, well, you've got till the end of the week, you'll get a 50% discount off the training. Okay, and that brings me to the end of a very brief introduction. If you have additional questions, you're more than welcome to give us a shout. I'm just going to put the details. That's my direct line, or you can email us. I'll just enter the details in there. Okay. If you've got any additional questions, or you can ask a question now after the webinar. Thanks for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if I can be of further assistance. My name's Jeremy. Thank you very much.